Innovation is a positive term. It represents change, moving forward, and the evolution of stale existing ideas. Pokémon has often been accused of lacking innovation, with the same linear structure plastered onto a new region, with routine gameplay loops and a severe lack of sophistication. From Game Freak's perspective, this didn't need to change, as Pokémon was, and always will, make more money than God. But change their formula they did with Legends Arceus, and the results were terrific. It was the most significant step Pokémon had ever taken towards feeling like a real world, where monsters that fit in your pockets roamed the lands. Scarlet and Violet have made even more enormous strides in that direction. Pokémon now behave in natural ways, with animations that befit each monster's unique design. The seamless integration between towns and plains adversely affect Pokémon's town designs and architecture, which in the past served as artistic bastions from the somewhat stereotypical routes. But Scarlet and Violet's towns feel relatively flat and uninspired, which is intentional as the game wants the world to feel more seamless. Legends Arceus and Scarlet and Violet represent the dawn of the new format of Pokémon fans have clamoured for the better part of 2 decades. And I hope this is the last one. Don't get me wrong, these are some of the most beautiful worlds Pokémon has ever had, or at least they would be if delaying a game was more preferable than a company-wide seppuku. And by beauty, I guess I mean grandest. That ability to peer across the map, knowing that hundreds of fantastical creatures, old and new, all dwell across these lands, is something totally unique to these installments. From a world perspective, this was a great idea and executed incredibly, but this is one of the worst Pokémon games in terms of gameplay. Now, I know Scarlet and Violet haven't changed the gameplay, and no Pokémon game ever should, but the presentation of the battles this time around is muddled and ultimately pointless. As you know, you're able to tackle any of Scarlet and Violet's 18 challenges in any order, each corresponding to a Pokémon type. Only, this is an illusion of choice. You have to do Scarlet and Violet in a set order, or else even Brick Break won't get you through the wall the game puts you up against. Of course, you still don't have to do them in this exact order. If you want to challenge a stronger gym before a weaker one, the game will allow you to do that, but the stronger gym will be a nightmare to complete, and the weaker one will end up being a cakewalk, so both experiences suffer. Pokémon is trying to emulate Breath of the Wild in terms of the gyms, and how you can tackle them in any order, but there's a fundamental difference here. Breath of the Wild was designed to be completed in any order, Scarlet and Violet weren't. Breath of the Wild works because nothing is gated by the player's current strength. You have the ability to do the shrines in any order, because all you need is the right gear to complete them, and nothing stops you from finding that gear. Pokémon has a stringent leveling system. If you're any more than 3 levels away from the recommended strength of your opponents, Pokémon becomes a wildly more frustrating or tedious game to play. There's a fix for this through level scaling, but I imagine Game Freak cut that because developing 8 different teams for each gym leader wasn't on the timetable. Breath of the Wild, while still being an open world, has extremely subtle ways of nudging its players in the right direction. When you receive the quest to free the divine beasts, it strategically places Ruto closest to you, so the player will be enticed to head east and follow the map counterclockwise. Scarlet and Violet's gyms are placed randomly. As a result, most players will discover the Ice-type gym before the Ghost-type gym, even though the Ice-type gym is much stronger, and that's just poor level design. An open world should expand along with the player's strength, hence they're motivated to get stronger and reach the farthest edge, not open up the whole world at once and realize that certain areas are impossible to beat, leaving the player to flail about, which I imagine is incredibly frustrating to the younger audience Pokémon attracts, who won't understand where they're meant to go. Scarlet and Violet are the first time Pokémon has lost one of its greatest strengths. RPGs are math games for players and developers. They need to calculate how much XP each enemy will give and how much experience each player needs before they reach the next boss battle. Then they need to put a certain amount of enemies along the critical path so that players aren't severely underleveled. Many RPGs fumble this number, and require massive grinding sessions on the player's part to alleviate the developer's mistake. In other Pokemon games, simply fighting the trainers along each route kept me perfectly on par with the gym leaders. Still, the trainers are so spread out in Scarlet and Violet that I'll arrive at my destination underleveled. The only reason this doesn't ruin the whole game for me is that the raid dens provide candies that allow me to stay on par with the gyms. But now I have to guess what level I should be at, and I either use too few candies and get destroyed, or worse, use too many and ruin the game's challenge. This open world formula works fantastically in an untamed land where only the Pokémon reign, and your only objective is to study as many as possible as you make your way to your distant marker. It doesn't work in a developed area with multiple objectives in every direction. Scarlet and Violet to me are sadly the worst Pokemon games made to date, and that's been totally irrelevant of their graphics, which I don't particularly care about. Scarlet and Violet show that Game Freak doesn't have the chops to make an engaging open world, instead feeling haphazard and poorly balanced. Unfortunately, I don't think we can ever go back to the rigid linearity of previous generations now that a new standard has been set. Still, I hope Game Freak can significantly improve this formula as we advance.